In this episode of Financed Opinion, we're going to be talking about Guild of Guardians, a free-to-play AAA mobile RPG that's looking to put the play in play to earn. But does it have what it takes to be a crypto moonshot, or is it destined to be a road trip pastime? Let's find out. I'm gonna start with the bullish side and work my way through so that you can make the decision for yourself, although I will obviously throw in a few opinions of mine as we go. Right off the bat, I do believe that the developers of Guild of Guardians actually have a bit of a winner here on their hands. At the outset, all the marketing I've seen and all the pre-alpha and pre-alpha video gameplay that I've seen up to this point seems to be a product that can compete in the AAA mobile gaming space, which is where they want to play. The developers have noted that they want to focus on the play portion of the play-to-earn model, making a game that people want to play, which I think is an interesting take and might be just what is needed to move on. Even though the play-to-earn model we've seen in a lot of other crypto projects, which means competition, they will have a few of their own deciding factors on how that will look out. We're gonna take a look at that in the white paper in a second. And I think that the earn mechanism in any one of these crypto projects, as long as it's attainable for people in the real world, not the cryptoverse, it will be an easy no-brainer for them to switch from any other platform where they may be spending money, which again, the project development has mentioned, spending their money. If they're more vested into a project where they're actually invested in, they may be enticed to stay, which is another good aspect to look at it. And honestly, the fact that they're focusing on the mobile space, I think is a really interesting play and something that more developers might want to look into. I know there's a lot in the crypto space focusing there, but a mobile-first approach really for the future, bringing in a larger adoption from more people across the world is probably the way to go. Now let's go back to the developers of the project. Stepico is a Ukrainian-based gaming developer which actually focuses on mobile games, and they have a decent portfolio if you check out their website that has lists of about 5 million downloads, which goes to show they actually know what they are doing. The project is produced by Immutable. Yes, the very same Immutable of Immutable X that gives us the layer 2 project, allowing for scalability on the Ethereum network, which does bring me to the point that this is on the Ethereum network, so keep that in mind. But it is using the scaling features of Immutable X, which means zero gas fees for NFT transfers, which is an absolute no-brainer when it comes to a gaming project in the crypto space. They're all NFTs. You don't want to spend gas fees on that, let alone try and tell someone what a gas fee is who doesn't live in the cryptoverse. It's not going to happen. So I think this is a bit of a no-brainer of a partnership. But also the fact that Immutable X was the developer behind Gods Unchained, which was a pretty popular crypto-based free-to-play tactical card game, which shows that this partnership has what it takes to push them in the right direction. You can kind of see some of the styling and the art direction that's going in a similar fashion, even though it's not a card-based game. It will actually have a team that has made a successful product on the blockchain behind them, which is another really bullish aspect of it. So right off the bat, I'm seeing all these really good signs. But that said, I do want to talk about the fact that from an investing standpoint, do you want to get invested in a single video game? And I've talked about this many times on my channel before, and I should mention that this is probably my largest con when it comes to picking out these video games. I want to give it a fair shake, and I think that there is a reason to get involved in this ecosystem, because if they do follow through on all of what they talk about in their white paper, you have a decent game, you will have a token that will be worth something in the future, and there are options for people to earn money without having to play every single day, which is another bullish sign from me, because I think more opportunities for others to be involved in the ecosystem other than just the developer and say the video gamer, or the developer and the music listener, or whatever, is going to be needed for a project to have longevity. So I'm bullish on a lot of aspects of it. But the question of holding just a video game token in the crypto space as opposed to a developer's stock or a token from an investing standpoint, because you remember this channel, I try to focus on those crypto moonshots and seeing if they are something that we may want to hold. And I'm not sure if everyone knows, but one of the approaches that I use is thinking about a project as if it was the only token I could pick, and if I wanted to hold that through a bear market. It's kind of how I can maintain my approach looking at a lot of these projects. Now, obviously, I don't only have one token to choose from, and I don't invest in just one token. That's a disclaimer right off the bat. Although I don't have any of GOG, which is the native token, I would consider getting involved with it if I saw this project going a little bit further. However, I would prefer to get involved with the developer. Stepico. That said, they're not actually a development company in the blockchain that I can invest in that specific token. So that kind of is a downside for me, because really, the developer is going to reap most of the benefits going long term through this project. I do expect the token or the project to maintain its value into the future and potentially continue going up, at which rate is hard to tell, but there will always be competition. This is something I've mentioned before. Competition is going to be ripe in this place, especially in the next few years. Metaverse and GameFi are going to explode. So picking one project that's not going to be usurped by something else is going to be a really tough bet. That said, Guild of Guardians probably has what it takes to definitely make some headway here in the next couple of years. Before we move on over to the screens and take a little bit more of a deep dive into the fundamentals, let's talk about the token you're getting involved with, GOG, which in-game is referred to as gems. Gems are going to be the in-game currency. They will actually also be used to mint new NFT assets in-game and can be used as rewards for stakers or game playing throughout the project. Now, I like to see rewards being given out, and one of the notable features is a 20% fee on all primary and secondary market sales that will be taken by the developer and distributed in a reward pool to stakers. Stakers will include governance token holders and will actually include all the game players themselves. So you can gain rewards by playing the game passively or actively, although active playing gameplay will be rewarded more, and they have noted as having some features that would require you to probably have some daily or weekly challenges to meet to get the most out of your coins. But from a passive investor standpoint, there will be a staking opportunity, it seems, although I'm not 100% clarified on what that would look like at this point. 20% is quite a steep fee, to be honest, but from a staking standpoint, if that is something that you could be partaking as a portion of, it could be quite a decent future for your dividends. This is also the perfect time to remind you that this is obviously not financial advice. It is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and it really is just the opinion of some guy on YouTube, so take it with a grain of salt if you would. I would also request that if you have any comments on what I've said here today, if you think I got it right, wrong, or you want to suggest something you think I might have missed, put it down in the comments. I'm pretty active with my community down in the comments, and I really appreciate the discourse that happens on down there. And honestly, I wouldn't find projects without you guys, so put down new projects you want to see. Again, give me a hard time, give me a good time, encouragement, all of it's accepted. Just keep it coming down below. I would really appreciate it. All that said, let's head on over to the screens and start talking about some of the fundamentals to see if this really is a coin for you. Now, we know that crypto is on the cusp of technology, but so is mobile first development. Now, honestly, when it comes to an approach of more people on the planet, using a mobile developing platform is probably going to be your best bet. And it's really where I wanted to start the focus of our little bit of fundamental analysis before we jump into the charts to see what kind of competition this kind of project may be coming up against before we can decide if this is a great project indeed. Now, starting here in the middle of the white paper, a lot of this white paper actually talks about the functions of the gameplay and how it's going to aesthetically look. A lot of those are not the cover, the basis of what I'm going to go through, because I don't think they matter. They're going to have competition that's always going to be there. But first off, noting this page here, the fact that the development team understands the mobile growth space. They understand that year over year it is expanding, and we're in a point of about $180 billion a year is spent on gaming. But the mobile portion is getting larger than ever before. And it is something that they understand, which is why they are developing there. Obviously, they are a mobile development company. And I thought some interesting numbers off of some names we would have probably seen: God of War, Mobile Strike, some of these you have seen, Clash of Clans. This is what they believe to be some of the spending rates per customer that they could potentially be tapping into by maintaining a genre and fitting a niche that would appeal to those particular players. And actually, one of the major ones I saw down here was Raid Shadow Legends, which I thought was very interesting, that they actually have revenue per month 23 million. I'd be curious to see where this actually came from, but you can see all of these mobile games here from various levels are in an insane level of income monthly, which means that they're trying to tap into that market, and I think this is a very good place to start off on the bat. So from an investment standpoint, they understand in their market of what they're going for and where they want to start to look at. The next subheading for this project that I wanted to really focus on was the business model that is their approach and how they're looking to generate money through the actual gameplay in the play to earn model, because it's a new space and we're seeing a lot of people play around with the different versions of what that would look like. Now, when it comes to it, it looks like these top points here are going to be some of the features that they want to include. NFT trading marketplace, we've seen that. Sponsorship platforms, community guides, newsletters, and analysis, which is an interesting one I heard about in one of the racehorse games that I actually reviewed. Thought that was an interesting place. Esport tournaments, social hub for like-minded partners, I don't really know what that would entail, and metaverse expansion into Sandbox or Decentraland. So the fact that they actually want to make continued partnerships with other developers and get involved in other games doing some cross-chain interoperability is also another real big win for them. I think this could be something interesting that they should be looking at. Moving on to the revenue model, we go back to those portions, that 20% fee I talked about being a reward spend. The primary sales of NFTs that they will be bringing out for every launch. There will be new seasons, so to speak, where they make new characters. And it looks to be that when you play the game, you start off with common players, and in order to make newer sellable characters on the secondary market, you have to trade NFTs or mesh NFTs to make new ones. In order to do that, you will need to have some GOG token. And having GOG token, you need to give 20% of that away to the developers, who give that in turn as rewards back. So this is really where they would be making the vast majority of their purchases. They do say that they will be making some in-app purchases available to players, although that will be minimal because we don't want to see that. Now that's actually a feature we don't want to see so much, because that's your traditional play to win model, which is kind of frustrating. It's where people just pay a bunch of money and then they've got the best assets and they're winning. You want people to be able to play it and all have a fair shake at the game. So the goal of the GEMS token is going to again be to reward players, align incentives, and regulate the economy, which is kind of what is needed in order for a play to earn mechanism to work. The rewards that players will be given will be part of the tokenomics we'll look in a minute. There will be some sort of daily, weekly rewards with a minimum play time that you would need to be encompassing. You will also be able to sell and purchase GOG tokens on every asset, and there will be a 20% minimum. 20% of the marketplace trading fees will be charged by the developer. 20% of those, of every asset sold or traded in that space, will need to be requested in GOG tokens, and they're actually looking at making it in a streamlined way where you wouldn't actually have to hold GOG token in order for that transaction to happen. So that you could see how that could easily disqualify people who don't want to get a special wallet or hold GOG, go get it. They will automatically exchange it on a DEX for you and give it to the developer. The developer will automatically do it in probably a smart contract where the money will be exchanged and thrown into the rewards pool for you. You'll just use it ETH or whatever other coin that they deem acceptable on the marketplace. So I think that this is a nice little diagram, very simple, that kind of straightforwardly points to the fact that you would play, you're in Guild of Guardians, it comes back around to the players, to the rewards, to the creators, they in turn make more content and it goes back to the game. So it's going to be a very closed loop ecosystem as far as a game, which goes back to some of my concerns relating to the game being a game. It's going to be a game that's going to be self-sustaining potentially, but it's also just going to be self-driving. It's not going to have anything outside that's going to want to make it larger. It's not going to really help a lot of other platforms. It's just about its own little platform. Now, if Stepico Games walks away as a winner, they're going to be the ones that wins, and we're going to see another game come out using another token. So I'd rather be involved in some sort of play there that could be interesting. This maybe begs the question, is Immutable X that play? Could be a question there. So right here, I guess we rolled right onto the tokenomics, which are pretty straightforward. I'm on the fence about it. Let's look at the vesting schedule here. There is 1 billion GOG tokens that are going to be dispersed in these sort of percentages. The developers taking away 20%, and then the corporation, which would be used to maintain portions of the reward pools and all parts of just running the company, will be 6%. So that's about 26% to the developers that they're going to be maintaining. The public sale, private sale, 5% will have a cliff. This 5% will have a year-long cliff, and we can look at the vesting schedule down here in a second. But community development will be 20%, and that will be a decent 28%. That's a decent amount. The player rewards also being 35%. So I'd like to see a lot of this portion going out into the public. So that's what it's pertaining and says it's going to be. However, one thing to note, when I do look at, so we went over to Etherscan here real quick, we see the 1 billion tokens. We do look at the holders right now. So we see about 2,900 holders, wallet holders of this token, which isn't a lot. But again, like I said, they're gonna try and streamline the purchase mechanism so that you don't actually have to have GOG to really get involved with it, but it will automatically purchase it, putting a little supply pressure or demand pressure on the purchase, driving the price, hopefully, into the future. But 2,900 isn't a lot, although I would imagine that this has gone up. The main reason I'm looking here, as I like to do occasionally, you've seen it, check out the size of the wallets that are holding it, and it's very interesting. Everything here from 2 on, let's start at 2 on, going down is reasonable amounts, and we see mostly exchanges, what we would expect, okay? CoinList was actually where it was listed for its IDO. The number one being 91%, where most of them, as you would expect, are held. This is their wallet. This is their internal wallet. But that said, it's not a smart contract, which is denoted by the little image here. A lot of bigger projects I'm seeing are being attaching smart contracts to the wallets so that it is actually vested out appropriately. That said, this looks like it would be a manual process, so it's going to still be at the whim of someone, which is a little bit of a security flaw in my way of looking at it. If you look at it from that standpoint, I know there's projects out there that do that, but it's something to consider because really, technically, they have all the tokens. If they wanted to take and run and do a rug pull, they could. I don't see it. It's a legitimate looking company. Stepico has work. They have people, they have shareholders. I imagine it's a privately held company, but they do have people involved. I doubt they're going to rug pull. Don't take my word for it though, but it's an interesting way of going about it. It's just having them all 91% in one specific wallet. You don't see it often. So coming back to the vesting schedule, this cliff here at 12 months is a little short for me. I do like to see further ones out at usually about 2 years, and the cliff is pretty steep for everything else because it is a 4-year vesting schedule total, which isn't, horrible because that means that there's going to be some incentive for people to come out. But 1 year into this project, we're going to want to see what happens because a lot of people involved are going to have the opportunity to start selling. So it looks like this came out in November, December is when the IDO happened. So keep an eye out for that being a little bit of a turmoil section where we could see a lot of coins flooding the market, especially if this project is in the middle of a bear run. We could see some tokens coming out in that specific point. So here, if you want to pause and actually take a look at the specifics of that vesting, it is pretty straightforward. Again, they were going to give out right off the bat. They're going to give some for the supply of the community and the private sale. Those were some of the earliest sections being given off there. The developers also, I imagine that these 200 million gems here will be part of building out the game like they say it's going to be. They would have unlocked some of those already to probably start some marketing campaigns. They need to fund this somehow. So some of that funding had to come from a certain percentage, and we're going to go check a look at the circulating supply over on CoinMarketCap in a second here. But yes, this is, it's actually a thorough vesting schedule that they've actually looked through it. There are still, I do wish that there wasn't quite as short of a cliff there though. So when it comes to the GOG token, gems, this is going to be one of the main driving forces of the ecosystem, and from an investor, this is what we care about most. So again, going back to the token utility, which is this section we're looking at, is the first one is you need them to mint gaming NFTs. Now I mentioned that in my intro that the gaming NFTs will be, you have 2 standard ones and you will mesh them together, you will mint them together in order to make a higher tier one, which you can sell to another player, kind of like the Axie Infinity Pool where you love them together and then you have this better, potential little game buddy and you can sell them on the secondary market. Remembering 20% will be purchased and taken by the developers. And you can actually see here, in order to buy all assets on the first and secondary market, you will need some portion to be in gem. That's that 20%. That 20%, like I said, they actually want to make this streamlined. To simplify user experience, we will likely allow all purchase to occur on a single transaction and automatically purchase gems from a DEX and transfer those gems to rewards pool to the buyer on the buyer's behalf. So this isn't going to be something that your standard player is going to have to deal with, which is fantastic, something to be thought about. We want to remove a lot of friction if possible. And then the active staking rewards is where you will get your money. So it will go back into those. Probably for the most part, we're gonna see that be players, right? It's gonna be some way that you can, again, stake some of your characters or some portion of the NFT game, you're gonna be able to stake and you're gonna be voting back onto it. It also will have a governance aspect of it. So right off the bat, the first portion, it will be active staking. You will get a voting portion. I think there'll probably be some airdrops, but it isn't really until the second release of the game, like when it gets in probably to full maybe a beta or full launch, that you will actually have this staking with massive rewards. And again, those rewards aren't guaranteed because that 20% will be distributed amongst the entire pool, but the governance and voting is really another one of their aspects of it. I jumped on over to another version of the white paper from a separate location, actually from CoinMarketCap, to show a more succinct version of the roadmap because the other one there was quite large. You can see the portions we're in, first half, second half of 2022. Pre-alpha already launched, it was locked up and kind of done. They're looking at reviewing that now. Alpha testnet looks to be in this second quarter, which we would like to see. It doesn't look like the game is going to be fully launched, full polished version of it until 2023 second half, which is quite a long way away. And something I'll point to is that we need to move probably a little bit faster. Now I know there's going to be a lot of projects developing over the next few years and not something I'm going to take points off for, but it is something to note that there are games actively made already. Again, Axie Infinity is already out there and developed. I think one of the reasons it did so well is because it was just one of the first to take a chunk out of the pie. The faster they get these products out there and delivered, the faster they can find out what works, what doesn't work, grab it, move on, and develop another game or a new platform after the fact. And if we're gonna be honest with ourselves, we really have to understand the fact that, again, as a developer, they're not gonna stop at this game. This won't be the last game they ever develop. It may grow and expand into new features, but they're likely going to develop other games, which again brings me back to my question of holding one specific token for investment purposes. Is it the smartest move to pick down on something that's as niche as this? That said, if you were gonna pick one, I do feel like this game probably has everything that's needed to go the distance. Let's continue down the bullish sides of this project though. I really think that this has what it takes. It has a large following already, and we've seen some other games that I've reviewed in the past that have much smaller followings. I think this one meets a special niche, the WoW niche. It has that RPG. It's going to hit a lot of player bases. And this is something they actually point to in This was actually something they pointed to in a Medium article here where they talk about their community growth. This is a Medium article pointing to 2021, a year in review, kind of looking at what was good and what worked, where they've come from, right, in the previous year. Although it was a short portion of a year for them, they seem to have had quite a lot of interest from the outset. A lot of that pre-register, game excitement that they got going was nearly 120,000 people in their Discord. I didn't join their Discord because they ask for your phone number, and I believe that's completely unnecessary. I hate it when companies do that. There's a few others that I've refused to jump on board with. Hey guys, let's get with the program. Decentralization is the future. Don't make me get into some stuff and get all my information. I want to have some anonymity in this world. Anyway, their Discord has 120,000, so they say, actually you can see it from the outside. I think it's higher than that. I think it's like 140 now. Nearly 170,000 pre-registered to play. We'll have to take their word for it, but I could imagine it, especially with 100,000 followers on their Twitter. It's actually more if we go check a look at in a second. And they have an inactive Facebook page with 35,000 likes. So these all point to aspects of interest in that type of game, and specifically the type of game that's being played. I know I've given a hard time for the Star Wars genre in the past. People do like space, and I know people out there are gonna give me a hard time because of that. I do think there's a huge one for the medieval section. WoW was massive because of the standpoint of the group of people who like to play it. So it does fit into that group. Again though, who knows how many people can really get involved in that space. There still is a lot of growth here that we can take to the bank and understand that there's a lot of people, at very least, interested in this game. Moving right along to something else that was also in this article that kind of touches back on the project's backing, any support and partners. This is a very interesting portion that I really wanted to talk about, was the fact that they've partnered with a number of other big players. Ubisoft actually has a partnership program that kind of like is a mentorship program that they actually help. It's called the Ubisoft Entrepreneurs Lab International Startups, where they actually go ahead and they give you, kind of looking at these main key features down here, they basically give them the tools they need from their company to help push them in the right direction and develop new technologies that entertain people. So I think that's a really bullish sign. Now, obviously they're not backing it with money or actual development, but they're offering services, and that lasts for 9 months. I think the product actually will last for. But they mentioned the likes of NRG Esports, which NRG, if you look at anything in like on the Twitch communities and the streamers, NRG is a huge company. They do a lot of esport related and streaming related content creation. They're very big in that space. And Sandbox, they mentioned again, which I think it's probably going to just be some sort of connection, but we did talk about that interoperability earlier on in the intro. So that I think is more bullish information about it. And honestly, we're here just kind of talking away from the growth and the community growth and how they're going to continue growing. They've already done a large portion. This whole paragraph here is all about sort of their marketing agenda in order to get people to that point where they got that large community growth from. They were giving away Ethereum as far as like to content creators to do reviews on it. Hey guys, I'm available if you want to send me some free money, although it's not all gravy from this channel. So people might want to second guess before they just send me money. But yeah, they have a future going forward. They've mentioned it. And something else that really quickly they did talk about was their challenges and what missteps they had. They realized that there was actually a little bit of a problem on the Immutable X platform. They had some hiccups because of the demand required on it, which I know I was saying very bullishly about Immutable X being a platform that would be fantastic for NFTs if it works all the time. We're in an early stage of crypto and it's to be expected, but they do realize it and they are working on those things actively. While we're here taking a look at community growth, let's talk about the Twitter. Yes, 123,000, so it already has even grown. They're actually, they're here, they're promoting it. They got a new partnership with Reddit, which really just means they just opened a subreddit for themselves, but they're constantly, developing, putting out screenshots. And as you can see, look at this marketing material. I mean, these are the NFTs. These are some of the characters. I mean, it looks legit. It actually looks. Here's some gameplay that we can check out what it looks like. I believe this might have been from the pre-alpha. It's definitely some marketing material there, but it looks like a mobile video game. It's actually walking the walk, which is something you want to see. So I've seen a lot of good news coming out of this from the Twitter development, and I think this is something that, again, points to the fact that they'll probably develop this product. Like in all reality, it's gonna happen, and they're gonna make some money and do pretty good into the future. Let's be real. But with all this said, we need to take a look at the charts to see where it's been, where it is, and what we think it's going to potentially do into the future. And as you can see here, we're sitting at about 42 cents, which isn't much to write home to the bank. But that said, this is one of those places I love because people always underestimate market cap and how that actually works. So they think this is really cheap and FOMO in. We can take advantage of that. So that's at a cheap price point as far as mentally cheap price point. We can see here if we zoom out all the way on the chart on CoinMarketCap, we're not doing a massive TA on this, but obviously we can see they started the project and had an IDO in the bull market. I've given a lot of projects a little bit of a free run on this one because anything was gonna go crazy at that point, especially in the altcoin space. When the altcoin season happened, it all went up. We did see a little bit of a run here when the actual Bitcoin last little run up to 48K happened here in March. This all points to the fact that it will follow that sort of Bitcoin run again. So worst case scenario, will this happen again? Will we see some peaks like this? I think if they continue to develop something and it actually is working, we would potentially see this if Bitcoin made a run, everything is gonna follow. As we know, it's gotta follow Bitcoin, but it's definitely all about whether or not it actually does follow it. Because if it didn't make this little blip here, then we'd be in some sort of trouble. That said, looking at the market cap, we have the asterisks. They don't have a confirmed circulating supply on it. Again, max supply 1 billion GOG or gems. I prefer gems. I don't know how I feel about GOG. It's not a very attractive word. Right now, self-reported circulating supply is 33 million. I just had to look at how many commas were in there for a second. 33 million, 33% is out there already. So 33% already being on the market is quite a lot. And as we can remember that we saw the 28%, then there's the 5%. So that kind of lines up with the launch and the vesting that we imagine there to be. Where do I think this can go from here? Well, the company has actually talked about trying to make a $1 billion company, which would, as a max supply of 1 billion, which would be $1, theoretically. If we were to talk about just the goals that they've mentioned in their white paper, I couldn't find it again, but it's in there. So that would really speak to a $1 coin token that would be, a maybe 1.5x from where we are now. That said, we know the crypto space. Would it realistically be a 1 billion token? Probably not. But will it stay there forever? Also probably not. We can use the previous numbers that we've seen here before at 180. I would tend to agree with that valuation being somewhere that it realistically could be. it is a single video game. It's not an infrastructure. It's not got a lot of other people involved with it. Even though I think a lot of people emotionally change and put their money in FOMO into projects, I think if they realize it is a game, it is a single video game, anyone who doesn't like the video game is immediately not going to put into it. So you're gonna have just people FOMOing who specifically like the video game and the type of video game it works. While it's in this prepubescent, like not developed stage, it has a lot of unknown about the project and whether or not it's actually going to make it. So there's uncertainty in that bet, and that's somewhere where people believe they can make insane gains, and there could be something said for that. Once you have a fully developed product that's working, say if this was in 3-4 years, there could be a problem, because where does it go from there? We just have a revenue model, we start looking at the amount of money they're making monthly, and that's about it. It doesn't, what kind of growth potential does it have out of that future? So I think if anything, now is probably the time when there is some of that unknown risk to reward potential for the token and the actual price getting into it. Seeing it go back up to this $1.80, basically $2 mark, is probably somewhere where I could imagine it. Honestly, if I'm gonna talk to it truthfully, so if we talk about $2 divided by 0.4, that's a 5x. So we would see a 5x from here, really where I think this could probably make if we saw another all-time high run. If theoretically Bitcoin went again back up to 60, 70K real quick, we could see this get back up to there, no problem. This wouldn't be outside of it. The project is in the unknown phase. There's a risk to reward thing there for people when they don't know what it is. But it really does make me think about the fact that when they do know what the product is and it's finished, does it have as many legs? If there isn't so much uncertainty, what are you gambling on? And really when it comes down to the crypto moonshots, honestly, a lot of it comes down to risking on the potential of something in the future, not necessarily the entire product they have out right now. That's not really what the crypto game is about. That's what your standard stock market's about. And if you want to do that, you can go safely bet in the stock market because you like Google and you know what they offer. That's what it is. You know, growth potential is year over year, small percentages, not hundreds of percent, thousands of percent. So it's something to be considered when putting this one into your bag. So I guess throughout my entire rant, I've kind of summed up everything I feel about the token. I think the project has what it takes to actually get all the way to a live product that's going to work. There's going to be a player base, and I think they're probably going to make it work in all reality. It's a mobile game developer who's done it several times before. Kind of a no-brainer. Yes, implementing some crypto blockchain technology to it might be a challenge, but I really doubt it's anything they can't do without the help of Ubisoft and Immutable X and any other potential partners they pick up along the way. That said, investing in a single coin, I think, is a bit of a risky play. It's something you can make a lot of money off of, but you have to be playing off the emotion of a lot of other people. Will this have the potential to do it on its own without Bitcoin? No, not likely. Will this have the potential to do it even in 4 years once the product is already out, launched, and just building a standard revenue? Likely not, in my opinion. I think that if you are going to make anything off of this, it needs to be in the short term. That said, if we're in a bear market, you're not making anything off of it in the short term. If you do have vested interest in this token, there is some solace in knowing that it probably will be worth something into the future, just because I think that the game will functionally work. It will do well, and it will actually have a player base, as I had mentioned before. So you will potentially have some staking rewards that you could use to pull off of it. You could use it to actually play and make some little bit of passive side income into it, unless of course it is bleeding into oblivion. Although again, like I said, at this place, we're so small that I feel like most of the potential is on the upside instead of the downside, unless we really go into a heavy bear market, in which case everything's kind of down and you just got to kind of put your hands in your pockets and wish for greener pastures. I guess that pretty much sums up my look into Guild of Guardians, but at the end of the day, it was just an opinion of mine, and that's not really whose opinion I want to know your opinion. So this is the point where you drop down in the comments and you let me know if I got something right, if you think it was correct, if you think I missed something, or if you think I got it completely wrong. Leave it down in the comments. This is really where I love to open a conversation up with you and talk about it and see if there's anything I could look at differently. Also, if you've got any other crypto moonshots in your back pocket, drop those down below so we can all benefit from the upswing on that puppy. At this point, I would also request, if you found any value from this and if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe and the like. It does do a world of difference for me and I really appreciate it. If not, so be it. I appreciate your time in watching this video so far. I guess that's pretty much it. I never have a very good ending for it, so I'll just see you guys in the next video.